Hello, and welcome to the cheap seats on One World Sports Radio, 1WSR.com. This is your Premier League show that gives you all the news and all the discussion points about all the things that are happening in the English Premier League. This week we've got the team, and we're adding on a new member. It's Dean who's joining us to give us a little bit of a take of something I'm not happy about, but we'll get. How are you guys doing?
I'm great.
Good.
Really good.
But before we begin, remember...
Really good after last night.
Okay, yes, 5-0, well done. 5-0 against an NH, that's fine. But remember, guys, please do like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also interact with us on the various social media platforms that we've gotten, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Please do like and subscribe. Let's start with the first topic of the day, something I'm not happy about, but it's fine because I'm probably going to have to come to terms with living with a Spurs championship. I don't know when the last time they won because, quite frankly, I don't care, but it seems as if he doesn't care. So, Dean, your team's been playing some lights-out football ever since they walked into Old Trafford. I'm hoping that I could get the same mojo this weekend, but we'll talk about that later. How are you? Are you believing? Do you think this is it? It's a very awkward season with City and Liverpool not doing quite well, and you've got the likes of Everton at the top with Leeds and Aston Villa hanging around. Do you believe that this could be it?
I want to say yes, but I also want to say no. And I think that goes for all Spurs fans. That's the problem that we faced. We're almost there and then we're not. It's kind of been our way of being for the last couple of years. But to be honest, the way I see us playing and the way, especially Monday night, was a big call because I've seen us lose those games, draw those games over the last couple of years. And that's really what counted against us where we've come so close. So everyone's talking about the fact of winning ugly. And I think that's what we did against Burnley on Monday. I mean, as with this league, we can see frailties again from every team. And we saw that when we played West Ham, which still gives me nightmares. The fact that Spurs give 3 goals away in 10 minutes.
Well, Lanzini, get in there.
I'll have to turn the TV off every time they show those highlights. But yeah, to be honest, Jose went to United, and the amount of flack I got from United fans saying that he's doing a run Spurs into the ground, I can't even tell. But the fact of what he's done at Spurs has been amazing. I loved Poch, but I think Jose has taken us to that next level. He has made us ugly. He has made us want to win it a little bit more and made us, I'm not going to say the word that he used in the All or Nothing, but everyone knows the exact word that I'm going to say. But that's exactly what we needed. And I think he identified that, noticed where we needed to improve. And yeah, like I say, it's good things. I think Gareth Bale coming in gave a big sort of just morale boost to everyone. Even though he's not playing as much, or, he will play a bigger role, but just his presence, I think, is giving a lot of belief to the younger guys, and it's good to see. And I mean, Son and Kane, it's unreal, to be honest. I'm just enjoying it.
So from an outsider's point of view, and for someone who really shouldn't be watching Spurs games, but we need to give credit to due, the way Mourinho has set your team up is something that I think he always does at the clubs that give him what he wants, i.e. not Manchester United.
Yeah.
And he's managed to set the team up into that traditional, I want to focus on defense first, but also attack. And his midfielders that he's always put in front of the defenders have always worked. This time he has the ability, I think, with Son, Kane, and whoever you want to pick on the right side, the ability to be able to attack with just 3 guys. And you have that midfield 3 of Højbjerg, Sissoko, and Ndombele, who just everything. And to a certain extent, that gives me, it hurts me, but I think something that Liverpool did last year and the season before, they just couldn't do it in that previous season, but last year they worked with this type of system, that 4-3-3, and it worked. And the fact that Kane is now becoming an assist machine, and Wahid can speak to this as well, is testament to the fact that if you guys are in it in March and April, it becomes a mental game. And I don't trust Spurs mental game, but
neither do I.
Mental game, and that scares me a lot.
Paul, you're the only one who has not had Mourinho manage one of his teams in this particular discussion. And also, the other thing about it is that I've seen it from the success side. The United fans will complain about having had him, though I believe he did win some stuff with you when he was there. He is a winner. He's a born winner. And I think that if there's one thing I said when he went to Spurs, it was that is potentially the perfect club for him to go to. The level of expectation being just right. The only thing that was falling outside of the purvey was money. He often needs money, players who come at a huge price tag in order to make a difference. And at Spurs, he's managed to find, I don't want to call them bits and pieces players because Højbjerg is better than that. But what he did was that he's found a really good core team. You can also see the players that he really rates as hard workers. If you don't see Dele Alli on the pitch, there's a reason why. At United, there were then questions about why isn't Pogba playing? Why isn't this one playing? And it was a constant. But every single time it came down to what's level of effort are you getting and what are they doing to make this formation work. But having said all of that, we are how many games into the season? Spurs have played 6. I think it might be a little early to be crowning Spurs champions, considering the hiccups they are bound to suffer. But I do think, though, that if there is a time where they could potentially have a great run because of injury issues at other clubs and potential just absolute craziness in terms of teams being really bad, this would be the perfect time for Spurs. But as I'm sure Dean and all of us know, there will come a time where Spurs will Spurs. And that could mean anything. Dean will think about a time at Stamford Bridge. AB and Wahid will think about different occasions. And Paul will also have his moments where he'll be like, the Spursing. So, some things are unfortunate things that seem to be regular occurrences.
So I just can't wait to ruin that narrative of, when was the last time Spurs won a trophy? I can't wait.
When was it? When was it?
Doesn't matter. We won the Adi Cup last year.
2008.
Doesn't matter. If Arsenal claim the Community Shield, I'm claiming the Adi Cup. Simple.
Well, if AB he didn't have. In fact, I don't think AB and Wahid had facial hair when Spurs last won a trophy. But I think that it's one of those things. Time, unfortunately, proves all of us to be wrong. Liverpool did that last season because we kept saying, yes, every year is your year, Liverpool fans. And then eventually it came to pass. And I think that Spurs are due a trophy, and it wouldn't surprise me. And Mourinho is the kind of manager who always targets something like the community, not Community Shield, what was it, Carabao Cup? And that's the perfect opportunity for Spurs to, would be the perfect opportunity for Spurs to finally do something.
The Carabao Cup already?
Who did they beat? Exactly. So.
Yes. Okay, that was that shootout. From the United axis there at the top, how do you guys feel watching Mourinho do his thing?
By the way, sorry, top of this recording, not top of the log, to be clear.
How are you guys feeling watching Mourinho do all of this?
I expected it. I really did expect it. I think that if you look at Mourinho, he's almost smiling as the manager of Spurs. And he was smiling when he was manager of Inter, when he was manager of Chelsea, when he was manager of Porto. It's when he was manager of Real Madrid and Man United that you saw the grumpy Mourinho, the Mourinho who always had a scowl on his face, almost like he didn't like being in the spotlight all the time, being asked questions of why he was leaving out X player or why he was picking X player. When he was at, with all due respect, smaller clubs than United and Real Madrid, those questions aren't always necessarily angled at him. He's allowed to go about his work and try and produce results without that level of scrutiny. And I think he enjoys that. I think he enjoys working just underneath the radar and maybe trying to punch above his weight. He likes trying to create a siege mentality within his squad that spurs his team. Oh, excuse it. Spurs his team onto greater.
That was not a mistake.
Onto greater heights, and I think he's going to enjoy that at Spurs. And the only difference will be working on a smaller budget, which he's not accustomed to. But I wasn't happy to see him. I wasn't happy to see Mourinho go. I enjoyed him at Man United, and I thought that he was going in the right direction. And what we've seen is that every gripe he had with Man United has come to fruition. Everything he said was true. Everything he complained about was true. So, I mean, he was used as the scapegoat in the end by Ed Woodward, but it wasn't his fault, I don't think. And I'm glad to see he's been able to resurrect his career at Spurs. I've got a lot of time for Jose Mourinho.
AB, do you have a lot of time for Jose too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love Jose. I think he's a tactical genius. I think he's a great human being at the same time.
And he's also a great actor as well in All or Nothing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you mean it's basically a Mourinho documentary. But I think when you are a chairman or a owner of a club and you hire Jose Mourinho, you have to back him completely. And I think with the Manchester United situation, they didn't really believe in him after the first season. And this is a classic sort of Ed Woodward Glazer sort of thing, where a new manager joins and they back him to an extent, and then he wants to build off that first season. And you know what? We've made Champions League already, so let's not. Let's just buy people like Lee Grant. Let's buy people like Diego Dalot, and we'll call it a day. And if Mourinho wants to sell a guy like Tony Martial, who's in his 20s, has got all the potential in the world, but doesn't fit what the manager wants, then you got to back him. You got to sell him, make your money, replace him with Lukaku or Mandzukic or whoever you want, but fully support your manager, and you'll get the best that manager possibly can do. And it's quite interesting to see the way Daniel Levy has supported Jose in this process. Of course, there's that financial impact, which they can't really change that much, but they still managed to get Gareth Bale for, I think, £15 million net cash outflow, which is incredible. A world-class player like Gareth Bale. And it fits to what Jose needs. So that's, well done to Spurs. They've got this man now. Now, can they keep him happy? Can he get the best out of the team based on what he has? And yeah, it's exciting for Mourinho. I don't want Spurs to win the league, but it's an exciting sort of dramatization for the Premier League.
But I must say, look, I'm a Chelsea supporter. I actually don't mind. I mean, maybe I'm very different to other Chelsea supporters or Arsenal supporters or United supporters. It's time for change. It's time for difference. We can't call it a top 6 or a top 10 if only the same 3 clubs keep winning the league. We want to be able to see these different teams. And so it's important for Mourinho to do well.
Okay.
But you see, the one thing is, sorry, Paul.
Yes,
everyone, and that's the one thing that I've heard so many people say, that, Jose needs so many players need to buy, right? The one thing that I wanted to mention is our best signing this year, apart from Højbjerg, because he's amazing, has been what he's done with Ndombele. The fact that he went from nothing, basically, when he came in, and the kind of football that Ndombele is playing now is our replacement for Musa Dembele, and that was what was really the engine that was driving our team when Poch was there. And the fact that Ndombele can play that similar kind of ball is what I feel is what we lacked when Eriksen left and when we didn't have that playmaker. And that's a pure development of Jose, taking a player saying, you're not doing well enough, developing him, and now he's playing good football. So as much as Mourinho needs those big name players, I think he's also learned a lot from United and, the kind of things that he had to go through there. And now he's saying, okay, I might not be able to get the players I want, but I can identify people, and I've still got that knack to develop someone amazing, So,
we're just going to ignore that he cost £60 million.
Yeah, but that was under Poch, man. It doesn't matter.
We're talking about him like you came from the academy. He cost £60 million.
Yeah, like that youth graduate Paul Pogba.
So, guys,
Harry
let's
Kane
move on
cost
to the
nothing,
next.
so it's fine.
So let's move on to the next one. This is for Cyrus and AB, partly myself, but I'll take part of this one. So we're watching Mourinho do his thing. Lampard and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looking as though this season's a little bit harder than the previous season. We saw the overcorrection from Lampard over the weekend, from playing a 4-5-1 essentially to going back to a 3-4-3. Manchester United seem to have found some sort of a formula working where he calls it a bomb squad, but he'll explain more about that later on. Has the Premier League now caught up to these club legend type managers, this younger crop of managers who are coming in, or is it just a situation of they need to tinker with their teams, but they just don't know how to?
Who wants to go first?
Between you and AB, you guys tell me what.
It's like after you.
Okay. I think that, and I guess everybody will have their views on what the club legends are and aren't doing. And I feel Frank he's learning on the job. This is obviously how it goes at a club like Chelsea. You know, you don't often get those opportunities, and especially with massive outlay, there's going to be all eyes on you. Question marks will be placed there, and there'll be a lot of statements made about whether or not somebody's up to the task at all. The thing about it, though, right now is that Frank hasn't lost to Ole this season. Last season, it was a completely different story, and I think all but one of 4 occasions were losses. And so I think that he's taken a step in the right direction in terms of understanding how to manage those games better. But the other thing being that in the past, you'd have Chelsea losing a lot of these games that they've currently drawn. And I think that's one of the key things about what's happening in terms of Lampard's development, considering this is his first full season, or rather second full season in management with Chelsea. I think that it's going to be a very steep learning curve. And I think that if the club supports him, you could see somebody who's managed to understand exactly how things work, regardless of all of the question marks. And I think this is a similar thing. And perhaps I'll use Wahid's words against him here, that when you're at a club that isn't as big a club as United or Real Madrid, the questions that get asked of you aren't necessarily as harsh. But I also counter that by saying that at United, the biggest problem is that there is a little way too much influence in terms of who should be being picked, what happens around the narratives around the team, and that puts undue pressure on the manager. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has shown that he can win big games, but it's not in the United way. And so there's weird narrative changes that happen across the board. You have the script change all the time. Oh, he's not good enough to do this. And all of a sudden you win 3 games in a row and suddenly he's a genius again and Ole's at the wheel. So there's a serious psychological issue. Sorry, AB. I'm stealing your point there, right? But I think the same thing is being done with Lampard in the sense that he gets beaten with other people's sticks, for want of a better phrase. Because in essence, what happens with him is that he suddenly doesn't have enough players, and all of a sudden Chelsea are a threadbare squad. They shouldn't be up there. In fact, he doesn't know what he's doing. Then they make an outlay. Suddenly he spent poorly. They haven't got the players that they're supposed to do. Then they don't lose the big games that they were losing last season. He doesn't know what he's doing. There's no attacking football. He spent all this money on attackers. So what do you want? Him to be at the first position in the Premier League and then blazing a trail? Then the next narrative will be that's what happens when you spend all that money on attackers. So it's a massive conundrum that he finds himself in. I do think, and this is my last point, that I think that Lampard will only get better as a manager. Whether or not he does that at Chelsea, depending on what happens with the club and how they view his success or lack thereof, will be the key determinant. But I think that there's a manager in there who can really bring out the best in younger players and play to a system that he likes.
AB, from a Manchester United perspective with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, what do you make of Cyrus's assertions that bigger clubs require, there's a lot more pressure?
Bigger.
Yes, well, effectively what he told us that we don't care. He doesn't care what we're worried about. But
we are gargantuan.
How does that pressure translate to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and being that club legend and also learning from the job?
So I think it's really important for a club like Man United specifically to have someone who's been through the entire system from signing as an unknown, from some random league in Norway, to going through the ranks, to experiencing injury problems like he did, to experiencing the height of what was the treble win, to being allowed to retire at the club, then to work at the club, be part of the backroom staff, learn, coach the youth guys, and then leave and then go and manage in his own right and come back. I don't think it was ever Ed Woodward's long-term strategy to have Ole replace Jose, but I don't think Ed Woodward will ever probably know who he wants as manager. I think they're all just Glazer puppets to an extent before Ole, just to appease fans and put the big names there. But I feel like it's important to have someone stable like Ole, someone who knows the DNA of the club, who gains command of that respect from players, because he was at the club. He did what those players are striving to do. And if they don't want to play it his way, he can send them off. We've seen Ole get rid of a lot of dead wood. Unfortunately, there's so much dead wood in that club that we cannot actually get rid of all of them. I mean, we've got guys like Phil Jones
waiting to punish me.
But Jesse Lingard could come on the Sunday and just have a worldie. Well, we don't know that, but I think of course, Ole's going to have to learn on the job. He's a very inexperienced manager. At least he's in his 40s. He's had a real job before the United job. He's actually also been a under-23 manager or a reserve team manager. But what I think he needs to start doing is forget about who these big names are. Forget about the noise that Cyrus mentioned around that actually kind of criticizes him for not starting the Donny van der Beeks, the Paul Pogbas. I mean, we've had so much success with Fred and McTominay in the midfield, allowing Bruno to do his thing, that if it's working, why change it? We saw Ole play a diamond for the first time in his Man United career last night, and that was incredibly successful. Yes, it may not be the Man United way under Ferguson, with wing players destroying it, controlling the game. We had far less possession than Leipzig last night, but maybe it's time for Ole to form a new sort of identity for Man United, and only someone who truly understood the old identity of Man United and is constantly close in touch with it is allowed to do that. And I think, I'd like to think that fans would understand that and give him time, because he's got all the characteristics, just like Lampard, to be a potential superstar manager. It's now time for fans and the board themselves just to give him that opportunity.
Wahid, I'll come back to you last. Dean, would you, with Spurs, Mourinho contract will end in 2-3 years, unless if he's winning everything in the world and Daniel Levy's just paying out. Would you, let's say Ledley King, as a potential manager for Spurs in this decade, would you be comfortable with that? Would you be patient with him? I'm assuming you'll have tasted silverware, so you'll want more.
Ledley King. You're going to Ledley King before like Glenn Hoddle.
Yes,
I mean, no disrespect. I don't know whether or not Ledley King could be a good coach, but wow, okay, I'm keen. Dean, I want to hear.
Is maybe Gareth Bale when he comes out of retirement? I don't know.
Gareth Bale is definitely going into full-time golf.
but like, what's the club legend that you like? Would you see a Spurs under a club legend going in that direction in like a rebuilding phase?
So my only thing that I kind of have against the whole club legend thing is they know the club and exactly what AB and Cyrus are saying. Like, they know the club, they know how it works, and it's great to have all of that know-how that a new manager just doesn't know. My thing is, and I think that's what I've kind of seen happen, and that's why I'm a bit hesitant, is the way football was played 10 years ago has changed so much to now. And it's almost like those club legends are so used to playing football the way they know how, or the way their coach coached them, that they try and bring that almost in a way. And I think to be slightly more progressive, you need a coach that is more in tune or has slightly more know-how as to the game now. So that would be my only sort of hesitancy, if I can call it that. I mean, if you look at Andrea Pirlo at Juve now, I mean, he kind of got appointed out of nowhere. I thought Pochettino was going there for sure, but then they give Pirlo the job and you kind of go, okay, they'll give him slightly more grace because it's Pirlo. And I get that same sort of feeling with Lampard or an Ole or, any one of these ex-great players that have come back. You give them a little bit more leeway. But then having said that, it's almost like if they don't perform, the scrutiny is even more. So I don't think, look, Ledley King could come back. It's never like, I'm never going to say no, but there's just always that little piece of hesitancy that I'd have towards a great becoming a coach. I'd rather just let Jose stay there until he can't anymore.
Even if it was Harry Kane.
No.
Harry Kane's going to play football forever. And Paul, what are you talking about?
He's waiting for Jurgen Klinsmann. He's waiting for Jurgen Klinsmann.
Wahid, so looking at obviously the way Manchester United have been playing over the past couple of weeks, they've improved. You can see Ole's tinkered. He's moved it along. You can see that maybe now the pressure's coming off. It's really lovely in football because one win changes everyone's perspective. So, like, how has it been? Is he still the right man for the job, even though you know the troubles he's facing?
Yeah, so I think everyone has talked about this whole idea of club legend as a coach, and I mean, Dean brings up a good point about people being steeped in sort of the tradition of the club and not being able to move on from it. But by the same token, like, you see that Zidane was appointed at Real Madrid and just hit the ground running from day one. We've seen club legends like Pep appointed at Barcelona. It's becoming a little bit more vogue at the moment. I think Dean brings up a point about wanting to appoint someone who has more of a know-how. But how do you develop a crop of managers who have that know-how? I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to have a new Guardiola or a new Mourinho out of the blue. So, I mean, where are you going to get? Yeah, where are you going to get these people from? So yeah, but having talking about Ole, I do still think he's the man for the job, and if anything, last night proved it. It was a victory with an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signature. I mean, after the Spurs performance was probably our worst under Ole. I mean, we were humiliated by a small club. He's gone and he's gone. He's gone and
doesn't matter. I'll still beat you 6-1. Doesn't matter. We'll say what
It'll be on the DVD. It'll be on the DVD. Small club beats.
He's gone. He's gone and he's gone and turned it around with our best performance under Ole last night. I mean, we've had bigger wins, but none better than this. It was a victory that was heavily reliant on his coaching, on his management, on his approach, and on his tactics. I mean, from the starting formation, the diamond that he started with, to his perfect substitutions, this was all Ole. I mean, he was a PE teacher turned headmaster last night. He's got.
Well, he wasn't anything against Spurs. He wasn't even at school.
Okay, guys.
He was a life orientation teacher there.
He's his last 4 games. He's used 4 different systems. I mean, that just shows that he's not just there to pick a team to appease the media and fans. Against PSG, he went to the counter-attack. There's nothing wrong with that. He used the counter-attack, which is much needed against one of Europe's elite. But last night, you saw a different Ole. You saw him bend an opponent to his will, playing thrilling football as a unit. He starved Red Bull of time, of space, of confidence, of ideas. Fred and Lindelof were amazing. Van der Beek played really well to contain the Red Bull press. And it was just a solid performance, which leads you to believe that the club is going in the right direction under Ole. I mean, those aren't that isn't the performance of a man who doesn't know what he's doing. And if you look at his record against big clubs, it's not the record of a man who has no idea what he's doing. I'm very much in Ole's corner. I back him in the long run.
Driving the bus with Ole, that's what Wahid is doing. You left out one name there, Wahid. That is I think you call him Dr. Marcus Rashford MBE. He seemingly last night carved up Red Bull. I don't want to say on his own because then it means as though he's playing the game on his own. But what impact has he made into the side?
Yeah, Dr. Marcus Rashford, member of the Order of the British Empire. I mean, last night was an electric performance from Marcus that proves that karma exists. He's a child welfare vigilante by day and a world-class footballer by night. I think there's a lot of unfair criticism from some corners telling him to focus on football. But if anything, we saw last night that the confidence he's taken from sticking one to the UK government has created a confidence on the field that's led to a swagger. He was unbelievable last night, unplayable at times. Really, really good. What he's doing on the field and off the field is just unbelievable from him as both a footballer and a human being.
Does karma work both ways? Because Hector Bellerin is planting trees in the Amazon. So does that mean over the weekend they can nullify each other slightly?
No. The problem here is that, you see, the thing about that karma, right, is that he's also using his looks as a model. So that cancels out a lot of the goodwill. You see, so all of the goodwill he's made and earned is cancelled out by him just posing for pictures. Unfortunately, it's just the way it goes.
I mean, if Hector Bellerin wants to really help Arsenal, he should actually go to the Amazon while they're playing.
Guys, I don't have right backs.
Good draft.
Has anyone else noticed Hector Bellerin's shorts? They are a throwback to the 80s. He wears the shortest shorts.
He looks like Freddie Mercury at the moment.
That is very true. The most stylish Arsenal player, but we're not there for fashion. At Old Trafford, we'll be there for other things, trying to get points in a place where, well, if Spurs can go and get points, surely we can come out with one.
So you're saying people from London do their shopping in Manchester?
Yes.
I do think though, and I what I like about United fans, and it has been like this, it is very much in waves with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You go on a couple of runs, everything's superb. Ole knows what he's doing. Come an Arsenal game where you lose at home 2-0, 3-0, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can just see all of the cracks again.
Sorry, let me stop you there. Arsenal have not beaten United.
Arsenal need to score a goal
at Old Trafford. I think since the last time we won the league at Old Trafford, which I don't know when.
We started this conversation with Spurs could win the league. We're basically in fantasy land right now, Paul. So what I'm saying is, let's start looking at things that could happen.
Okay, that could happen. So gents, this week we saw something very interesting, and it's going to move us into the fantasy pod. We'll park the Bielsa-ball conversation slightly for the following weeks. Liverpool changed their formation, which can cause a lot of fantasy managers a little bit of a headache. They've decided to go with this 4-2-3-1 formation, largely out of the fact that they're trying to get the best out of Thiago Silva. But in that situation, they play Jordan Henderson and Van Dijk. No, not Silva. The other one, Thiago himself, Alcantara. Sorry.
No, just so in case Thiago Silva comes at you, I'm trying to protect you.
Hey, look, if Thiago Silva came, I'm running the other way. But that pushed Mo Salah a lot higher up the pitch as their number 9, and it brought in Firmino as the number 10 with Mane on the one side and Diego Jota on the other side. What do you think that is? A, going to work, and B, does that bring another dimension into the FPL conversation where we're trying to figure out whether to pick Mane or Salah, or even now, I'm going to throw it out there, does Bobby Firmino come into the argument, or even Diego Jota, because it seems as though Klopp wants to attack with 4. I'll go with Dean with this one first up.
So currently I've got Salah, and I've had him since week 1 in fantasy, just because I thought he was going to do better. First week scored a hat-trick, having left my team, right? But the way that Liverpool have changed, I think it is going to see a definite change in the way that not only FPL is going to set up, but the way that Liverpool is going to play in general. I do think Salah further up is probably a good move for Salah as a footballer, but in terms of fantasy, that definitely gives him an edge over Mane. The big question that is to come is Firmino, because you haven't got the best of Firmino. I mean, Liverpool fans rant and rave about Firmino that he's, basically the best thing since sliced bread, but you just don't see it coming through on FPL. But I think now, look, no one can do a Kane and drop back and start providing the way that Kane does. But Firmino might be able to do that to a lesser extent, but I do see him probably becoming more of a provider rather than that number 9 slot that he came. And also Jota's a really good footballer. I mean, no one can take away from the fact that he's really flipping good, you know. But yeah, having said that, Liverpool at the back, if you've got anyone Liverpool defensively in your FPL, get rid of them.
God. I'm John Cena in this one.
I mean, I was joking that, I mean, who's their centre-back going to be? Gomez and Milner, or, you know, who's
Reece Williams. Reece Williams,
but, I mean,
he came on last night.
Even if he comes on, you know, who is he? You know, like, he's not.
Who are you guys?
Wow, who is he?
Does he even go yet?
So yeah, look, Liverpool is in a world of trouble. No joke. Like, they really are. I think Virgil going, I mean, they're throwing campaigns around to try and, you know, it's almost like he's suffering the worst of the worst from just an ACL, which is a joke just with Liverpool
It's
fans.
a bad one, though.
It is bad.
Yeah, but you'd swear it was the first ACL in history. Like, we've had petitions.
We know about hyperbole and Liverpool, and you know how they meet. But I do think, though, interestingly, I don't know if Salah as the number 9 will work wholesale, because he often makes a lot more of his runs off the flanks in order to create space to get into the box to score than him as a poacher. We've seen him trying to do that in the past, and he's just not justice. Yes, void the season. This should have done that.
Liverpool fans, that's the scary thing.
But I think the thing about it is a tough thing to experience when you have a dearth of centre backs. Every single one of our squads has suffered through this before. Liverpool themselves have had issues in the past with centre backs. They suddenly got a world-class centre back, and everything just fell into place. And the reality was, for us, and I've been saying this for years, they were one Van Dijk injury away from catastrophe. Unfortunately, and this is the thing with their system, there's one or two players who are critical to their success. So to go back to the point about the change in formation, I don't necessarily think it's as much to do with attacking with 4 players, but rather the 2 midfielders sitting in front of that back 4 gives them a little bit more from a defensive standpoint. And I think that might be what they're utilizing a lot more. And the thing for me is Trent Alexander-Arnold has got to have been the worst decision I ever made in fantasy, because he was tearing it up last season, and now he is tearing me up this season. So I just don't know what to do.
So speaking about justice for VVD, I'm still waiting for justice for Aaron Ramsey. Ryan Shawcross, wherever you are, I'm still waiting for my little piece.
You're still waiting. Petr Cech doesn't have bits of his skull, so you know. I think
I'm joining the line. I'm joining the queue for justice people. Next question, AB. You're a fan of this guy, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and possibly James Rodriguez. Is it time to sell Everton after what we saw these past 2 weeks? You know, they did quite well against Liverpool, but they got the first red card of the season, and Jordan Pickford, we all know what's going on. But then now with the red card to Luca Digne, them playing Alex Iwobi, and the lack of squad depth, is it time to swap a DCL? And the other question is, if you're going to swap him, who do you go to? Is it, I've been hearing Timo Werner come up. Do you think Everton's going to continue with this run of form, or is it time to let go?
The problem is, so DCL, I think, is 7.5 or 7.3 or something like that. So you sell him, and let's say you've got $500,000 sitting in your bank. Who's available for 8? That's worth it. Cavani is 8 million, but he's not going to be playing week in, week out. Tammy Abraham is in the 7s. He's not going to be playing week in, week out. So you're actually kind of short of options. So you're going to replace DCL, a guy who's top of the league in terms of scoring and all of that, if you were to sell him, and replace him with like Callum Wilson or Chris Wood, or let me go through the list.
Patrick Bamford? I
mean, if you don't have Patrick Bamford in your team right now, you have not been watching this show. So yeah, let's just, if you don't have Patrick Bamford now, here's a hint: go buy him.
Or put him on your bench.
Don't put him on your bench. Don't.
He doesn't have enough papers to throw around at the moment.
No, me throwing around the papers was what Rio Ferdinand was doing when he said,
Exactly.
here's the contract, Ollie's at the wheel, just sign him up. But anyway, Manchester United are back. But yeah, look, I'm going to stick with DCL. James I can give away in the next couple of weeks, depending on how he plays. We don't know, but DCL's a poacher at the end of the day as well. So any ugly goals that Everton do score, he could be on the end of it. So yeah, I'm going to stick with DCL.
I have an issue with Ancelotti with that. I'm not a fan of Gylfi Sigurdsson playing in the midfield because Gylfi always wants to play in that number 10 role, and it forces James to stay on his flank. And then it didn't work against Southampton, and that really put them away. Wahid, are you still there?
I think he's frozen.
Frozen.
Maybe you have to let him go.
He's being terrible in fantasy anyway.
Oh my goodness.
I know it was terrible. That was a proper terrible shocker.
So, yes, Cyrus?
I was going to say, look, as you know, I've been scaling the dizzying heights in fantasy where, I think my team has come as close to 10th place in our league. And I just don't see why anybody would get rid of Dominic Calvert-Lewin at present, primarily because you have to look in terms of the opposition that they're facing. And really, if Southampton are a tricky one because they've got a really big centre-back, and so, taller centre-backs will always struggle because if you're playing the power game, you're up against somebody who will match you from a power perspective. Newcastle don't have that. And so when you look at Everton versus Newcastle, I'd say this potentially would be a really good game for a Calvert-Lewin to really, find his form again. I mean, they lost one game. The issue for Everton will be don't put any of the defenders in your team because I had Luca Digne, and as you can imagine, having swapped him in for Doherty, that was a fantastic master stroke for me. 6 points on the bench, -2 on the field. But I think that for me, the real thing for this game week really comes down to what happens in the games against Villa and Southampton. And potentially also what happens in the Fulham versus West Brom game, because I think there's points to be won in those two encounters. I think Spurs should do okay against Brighton, but what happens with them when you're looking at Thursday night or tonight's football? Europa League takes a toll. And,
did you say Thursday night or Spursday night?
Well, it depends on what you want to call it.
1 year.
I mean, it's weird considering that United have also won the Europa League, much like Chelsea.
Exactly.
We know what Thursdays look like. But I think those games.
So Timo Werner's now all of a sudden in sort of a goal form-wise. And I know that you took him out your squad and then he scored. Bring him back into your squad after.
No, I'm quite happy with my centre forwards for now. I've got Kane and Calvert-Lewin. I had Ollie Watkins from the start of the season. The only time I didn't have him in my side was the day I benched him and he scored a hat trick. And he scored a hat trick that day. So.
FPL manager of the year.
Okay. I finally gotten rid of him to get Patrick Bamford in because I think Patrick Bamford is more of a natural goal scorer who's taken well to his first real season in the Premier League. If you're going to talk about getting rid of Everton players and you're going to talk about getting rid of James, which I'm not yet, I would start looking at Zaha. Zaha is not playing as a winger; he's playing as a centre forward. He's playing through the middle in a 4-4-2, and I think there's good value to be found there from him listed at, I think, 7.3 as a midfielder, but practically playing as a forward. He scored just about all Palace's goals this season. And I think if you were going to look for a little bargain way of getting out of Calvert-Lewin at some point, I think what you might be doing is getting Zaha in and trying to find another forward.
And taking that 4-point hit. So I think from my end, I went. So after Bamford, because I didn't have Patrick Bamford, I had Mitrovic, thinking that he might score some goals against smaller teams that Fulham play for. But Fulham's a joke, and they're going down. So I've sold that stock. So I decided to go with Bamford this week to see. I had Bamford to start off with. I went off of him, I've just been I've been managing by surprise. Essentially, if you're gonna give me a hat trick or a glut of goals, I will look at my fantasy and be like, hey, why not? Let's go. That's why I'm like 20th in our league. But so, gents, this weekend, one last thing: captaincy options. Who are you going for this weekend? It's an interesting one. Arsenal play Manchester United, so I don't think so. Marcus Rashford, maybe actually captaining Marcus Rashford this weekend could be something good, because I at times I struggle to see what Arsenal's trying to do. But obviously, there's always Captain Mo Salah. Spurs are playing Brighton, so it's very enticing for either a Son Kane axis, working there with those assists. Where are you guys thinking this week, where as a captaincy option? You don't necessarily have to. Well, yeah, just what do you think? Avoid the season justice for Virgil van Dijk. What do you think?
I'm thinking Son Heung-min at Brighton. Well, they're at Spurs, but yeah, Brighton are a terrible team.
Not Tariq Lamptey.
I wouldn't. Sorry?
not Tariq Lamptey.
No. Tariq Lamptey is a baller, but yeah, he needs to leave, and he will leave. That's fine. But I actually don't think Liverpool will get the result they kind of want from West Ham. David Moyes has got a weird thing going on with West Ham right now. No one knows what's going on. Maybe he's not coaching them. Maybe he's just appearing at the games and letting the team just do his thing.
Yes.
But yeah. So yeah, I would go with Son Heung-min.
So there's a funny video about West Ham. So when David Moyes was under quarantine, there's an image, the video appears on the phone on the side of the field, talking to David Moyes in the middle of the game, but Moyes' feed is 2 minutes behind on the field. And it was against Spurs, and Pierce thought they were going into trouble, and it was just before they just scored. So Pierce is talking to Moyes. Moyes doesn't know what's going on. West Ham score. Moyes is trying to structure the team to try to figure out a way, but he didn't know what was going on. But that's a story for another day. Dean, who are you going for your captain?
Yeah, look, I got burnt last week with the Salah captain. Everyone in the whole world was going Salah, and I was like, oh yeah, cool, great. Sheffield, they're gonna get ripped apart. Didn't captain Kane, which should have, and I'm not gonna get burnt again. So Son is a good captain, but I have to try beat AB, so I'm gonna go Kane. And just hope you, absolutely them.
Wahid, is it Dr. Marcus Rashford for you?
I actually don't have Sir Marcus Rashford in my side at the moment. At some point, I think I might try and get him back in. With the stop-start nature of the season, I wasn't sure with Rashi to start with. I've gone for Sonaldo. Him and Kane, it's difficult to pick between the two at the moment, but when one's scoring, the other one's assisting, and vice versa. So you almost guarantee, if Spurs are scoring a goal, you almost if you're doubling up on those two, you almost guaranteed some points from either one of them. I mean, all the goals are going through them at the moment. So yeah, I've gone for Son. I might change to Kane. I'm definitely not changing to Salah because I got burnt last week.
Salah's going to score 6 goals.
Salah behind. Wow,
I can see it.
Well, Cyrus, you guys are playing. Chelsea's playing Burnley, right?
Yeah.
I don't know which Chelsea players you have, but I'm assuming there's probably a Hakim Ziyech in there somewhere.
Well, that's a great assumption. It is incorrect though, because so one of my main hang-ups is that I don't put Chelsea players in my team. And it's worked out primarily because I just never know who Frank's going to pick. Apart from Mason Mount, you can't guarantee anybody game time. So, but I have been playing Havertz, who I think Frank is definitely using all the time. I know.
Okay.
But so I have kept Havertz in. The issue for me is
I've also got Havertz, yeah.
Havertz and James seem to be on similar trajectories. You just don't know what's going to happen. James will have a great game depending on what the other guys are doing, and then I don't think James is going to score a lot of goals. For me, though, from a captaincy perspective, I actually think if there's one team we've counted out in this and counted out of this way too early is City. And they haven't been great, but they are playing Sheffield United, who have been really poor. And so somebody like Sterling might be a good shout, considering that also Captain Salah absolutely. I was so irritated. I've never been more irritated in my life. Okay, that's untrue, but it was certainly up there.
Were you more irritated when John Terry slipped in Moscow?
I actually thought exactly that. but what was great
Harry
though
Maguire gave Cesar Spilicueta a good hug.
The irritation United has caused me over the course of my life. Just not worth it. Just not worth it. But I do think that if you're going to pick a Chelsea player, Havertz would be one of them. I do think, though, that one of the other games to really look out for in terms of value might be that Leeds-Leicester game. I think that both teams we don't know who's going to pitch up on the day. So having one of those Leeds players in might work. I also have no idea because my strategy has always been captain a midfielder and you'll get more points. But I don't know if that seems to be working anymore.
So I have in that Leeds-Leicester game, I've got Castagna, Vardy, and Bamford. So I don't know what's going to happen. I might just end up with
don't
0
bet
points.
against yourself. You're betting against yourself. You can't have a defender in the same team that you've backed the strikers.
Castagna. But what am I supposed to do? I've got Reece James, who doesn't play
I think
for
we're
Chelsea
zeroing
before.
in on Paul's problem.
Where are you in the league, Paul?
I'm like at the back somewhere.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
It might be that you've basically started to shut the barn doors once the horse is bolted by signing players after they've scored hat tricks. Never a good move.
Never.
No. Look, I had to get rid of Mitrovic, so I had to go for somebody else. And
I honestly think, and I hate to say this to you, I think Mitrovic is scoring this weekend.
If he scores this weekend, I'm just gonna stop
giving up.
I have a sneaking feeling.
Okay, guys, enough about me and what's going on in my fantasy hurt locker. In the show, what is your predictions for the United Arsenal game this weekend? It's probably the biggest game, unless if somebody feels that Chelsea Burnley's bigger. But I'll start with the United guys. What's the scoreline? Am I going to be crying after 90 minutes, or will you?
It's hard to tell it's hard to tell which Arsenal are going to turn up, as much as it is hard to tell which United are going to turn up. So it's almost like a potluck here about which team is turning up. I think if you had to go first 11 versus first 11, United are stronger than Arsenal. And I do back United to beat Arsenal at Old Trafford. We don't often lose to Arsenal at Old Trafford. I'm probably going to be sitting here next week eating my words. I might be sick for the next show. I might be sick for the next show if this doesn't go my way. But I'm going to say 3-1 United.
Oh, thanks for giving us a goal. AB?
We've agreed to miss the first penalty, but we're going to score the 2 thereafter.
Okay. I'll let Arteta know.
So I think Ole did well with rotating guys midweek. So I think United will be a lot more fresher. They seemed very fit this last match. I'm worried that Arsenal playing today, which they have to play a strong team with, and on Sunday again is never easy. We've been there.
Don't worry about us. Don't worry, it's Dundalk. It's no issues.
You say that now. So I'm gonna go with a 2-0 United win.
Okay, Dean. I know you hate us. So what? How many goals are United shipping past?
Now, honestly, best result for me would be for both teams to get lost on the way to the stadium and get relegated. That would be best result. But yeah, honestly, Arsenal aren't going to win. So I hope Rashford rips them apart because he's in my fantasy. So I'll go 2-0 United purely because Old Trafford and Rashford's just on a high. So yeah, 2-0 United.
Cyrus, please be on my side.
So I've never in my life had a head versus heart thing with United or Arsenal. But here goes. So the analytical me says this should be a walk in the park for United. They've just got enough players on board to really do something against Arsenal, and I mean something big in terms of Rashford. They'll basically bring out all the big guns and score loads of goals. That's what the head says. But the heart keeps saying to me, there's something in this game for Arsenal. They've had a mediocre start to the season. There's not much happening for the club at the moment, and they need to kick on. And if there's a game where you can finally show your chops, it's at Old Trafford against United. If Arsenal get a result there, things can change. Now, if I have to marry the two, I'm going to say this is a United win, and I think it's going to be 2-1, but I would not be surprised if Arsenal pull off something absolutely unheard of in this game, like a 2-1, potentially even a 3-1, with Aubameyang getting 2 goals. No, not 6-1. 6-1.
No, and that's special teams.
Yeah.
6-1 is for small teams like City and Spurs.
Okay.
But that's the thing for me, is that I have this sneaking feeling that Arsenal might snatch something, but I'm not going to bet on it. So let's put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, so never forget 8-2. We know that one. But it's going to be tough. I know what Arteta is going to do. It's going to go back to the traditional 3-4-3, which will probably force me to kill myself in the middle of the game. We will counterattack. I think there's a goal in them if they overload the one side. The only problem is I think it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka that will be attacking. So we might find joy on the right-hand side of Manchester United. But, yeah.
Is Aubameyang going to rack up? Ever?
I think he does, because we paid him. It seems like every time we pay ourselves, nobody wants to play.
You shouldn't have paid him. This is the biggest problem Arsenal have, is that you dangle a carrot and then the power dynamic is completely off. Aubameyang owns Arsenal now. He literally said, I'm going to go. And they're like, don't go. We'll give you the stadium. And so now he's turned around and said, now the stadium, what more must I do? Yeah, what more? Yeah. Never forget 8-2. AB.
But then I think it'll end up being a draw. I think the systems of play will nullify each other out. It's just dependent on the Ole wants to come out and attack. If he does, he might play into Mikel Arteta's hands, and we could find yourself with a situation where we're sneaking a win away from Old Trafford, which is what I hope will happen, but I think it'll end in a draw.
Just remember, United scored first against Spurs.
Yes, we know, and that's what we hope for. But anyway, just thank you very much for joining and giving us another hour of incredible football discussion. If you're watching this, please do subscribe and to our YouTube channel. Put in that little notification, little alarm clock, so when we go live, you can also have a watch with us. Please let us know what you think. But from the gents, enjoy the footballing weekend. It's going to be interesting. I might come back next week crying, or I just might be sick. Who knows? We'll find out. But
it is a pandemic.
It is. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, and thank you for watching. Till next week, from the Cheap Seats team, Le Sale Kakahiso.